Have you ever wondered why you're still here? Why God lets your heart keep beating when so many others have gone? Why after 60 years, through storms, through sickness, through sorrow, you still wake up every morning with breath in your lungs? That is not an accident. That is not luck. That is purpose. You see, God doesn't make mistakes with time. He doesn't forget to call someone home. If you're still alive after 60, it's because heaven still has a reason for you to walk this earth. Maybe you think your best days are behind you. Your children are grown, your work is done, your strength is fading. But let me tell you something. When your body slows down, your spirit begins to shine brighter. When your voice trembles, your words carry more power. When your steps grow heavy, your example grows stronger. You've lived long enough to see pain, but also to understand peace. You've seen the foolishness of youth and the wisdom that only time can teach. And God says to you, I'm not done yet. Perhaps there's still one grandchild who needs to see what faith looks like. Perhaps there's still one neighbor who needs to hear what grace sounds like. Perhaps there's still one heart, broken, lost, confused, that only your story can reach. You may not stand in pulpits, but your life is a sermon. You may not wear a crown, but your endurance is your glory. You've lived through things that could have destroyed you, but you're still here, not because you're strong, but because God has not finished using you. After 60, your mission changes. From chasing dreams to shaping destinies. From building your own life to blessing the lives around you. From asking, why am I here? To declaring, Lord, use me while I still am. So don't say I'm too old. Don't say my time is gone. God keeps you alive because there's still someone who needs your faith. Still someone who needs your love. Still someone who needs to see that it's never too late for grace. My friend, every wrinkle is a testimony. Every scar is a story. Every morning you wake up is heaven's reminder, you are not finished. You are chosen. So lift your head. Stand tall in your season. Because if you're still breathing, God is still working. And that means your greatest impact may be just ahead. Have you ever looked in the mirror one morning, saw those lines on your face, and thought, where did all the years go? You remember the laughter of youth, the rush of energy, the dreams that once burned bright, and now you look at your hands and see time written in every wrinkle. The hair has turned silver, the step a little slower, the nights a little longer. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet question rises. Why am I still here? My friend, that question is not born of doubt. It's born of purpose waiting to be rediscovered. Because if your heart is still beating after 60 years, it's not because your body is stubborn or the doctor's medicine worked a little longer. It's because the God who gave you breath still has a plan written in your name. You see, life is not a calendar, it's a calling. The world may count birthdays, but heaven counts purpose. There comes a moment in every life when the calendar seems to take over. We start believing that once we pass a certain age, our role is finished, our story written, our purpose done. But that's not the way God sees it. To Him, your years are not numbers, they are seeds. Seeds that have been watered with tears, shaped by storms, and grown strong under the sunlight of His mercy. You are not living in the leftovers of life. You are living in the ripest season of your soul. Think about it. The same God who woke you up this morning has carried you through every valley, through every sickness, through every heartbreak and loss. There were moments when you thought you wouldn't make it. Nights when pain whispered that it was over. Days when loneliness made the world feel smaller. But somehow, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still here. And that is not chance, that is not coincidence, that is divine intention. God does not leave His people wandering through years without meaning. Every sunrise that greets you after 60 is a reminder that He still trusts you with life. The world may see age as decline, but heaven sees it as depth. You've walked through decades of experience. You've learned lessons that only time can teach. You've seen what happens when people chase the wrong things, and you've learned what truly matters. And now your very existence is a message to those still rushing through life's noise. Slow down, find purpose, and remember who holds your tomorrow. Maybe you look at the younger generation and feel like the world has moved past you. Technology changes, faces change, values shift. But let me tell you, God never updates His purpose the way man updates his devices. His plan for your life has no expiration date. You are still here because there is a story only you can tell, a prayer only you can pray, a word only you can speak. Someone, somewhere is waiting for your testimony, waiting to see what endurance looks like, waiting to hear what faith sounds like when it's been tested by time. When you were young, you may have lived for ambition, for success, for adventure. But now God calls you to live for influence. Not the loud kind that shouts from stages, but the quiet kind that changes hearts. Your calm presence, your steady faith, your simple kindness, these are the ripples that touch eternity. You are alive because your life is still a living sermon, still preaching hope in a world that's forgotten where to find it. Remember, the world measures worth in productivity, but God measures worth in faithfulness. You may not run as fast as you once did, but every step you take in gratitude echoes louder in heaven than a lifetime of rushing without purpose. You may not build empires now, but your words can still build courage in the hearts of others. You may not fight the same battles you once fought, but your prayers can still move mountains. God has kept you here not to remind you of what's gone, but to awaken you to what's still possible. You're not surviving time. You're fulfilling time. You're walking through the final chapters of a book that heaven is still writing, and every day is a new page filled with meaning. So stop counting the candles on your cake and start counting the blessings in your breath. Stop measuring your days by what you've lost and start celebrating them by what God can still do through you. You are not living in borrowed time. You are living in appointed time. Some people fear growing old because they think it means growing useless. But the truth is, after 60, your life carries more weight, more depth, more authority. When you speak of love, it carries wisdom. When you speak of pain, it carries compassion. When you speak of God's goodness, it carries proof. Because you've seen Him work. You've felt His mercy when everything else failed. You've walked through fire and found that grace still holds. And that's why He keeps you alive. Not to wander aimlessly, not to wait for an ending, but to shine with the quiet brilliance of someone who knows the author of life. You've become a bridge between generations, a living reminder that God's faithfulness doesn't retire. So tonight, when you lie down to rest, don't say, I'm just getting older. Say instead, I'm getting closer to purpose. Every morning that you rise, remember, you are not a leftover of yesterday. You are the evidence that heaven still has work to do on earth through you. Life beyond the calendar means this: you are not defined by your years, but by your yes. If your heart still says, yes, Lord, use me, then time itself becomes your servant, not your master. You may be past 60, but you are right on schedule for eternity. When you reach a certain age, something begins to stir deep inside you. It's not the chase for what's next, it's the quiet question of what still matters. You start realizing that time is no longer something you try to outrun. It's something you learn to understand. After 60 years of walking this earth, God doesn't keep you alive just to exist. He keeps you alive because your season of purpose has just begun. For much of life, we are driven by the need to build homes, to build careers, to build families, to build names that might last. We measure our worth by what we produce, by what we own, by what we achieve. But then comes a time when the noise fades, the race slows, and the things that once seemed urgent no longer hold the same power. And it is in that silence that God begins to whisper, Now that you have built everything else, let me build something through you. You see, God never meant for purpose to end with age. He never designed your calling to expire when the body weakens or the world moves faster. Purpose isn't something you do, it's something you become. And after 60, you have become something powerful. A vessel shaped by decades of grace, a testimony molded by time, a light softened by mercy. The reason you're still alive is because your life has reached a season where your purpose can speak louder than your strength. There are seasons when God works in you, and there are seasons when He works through you. The first half of your life, He was preparing you. Every trial, every loss, every unanswered prayer, all of it was God writing wisdom into your soul. And now, this is the season when He wants to pour that wisdom out. He wants your story to become a guide for those still wandering through the same storms you've survived. The young may have energy, but you have understanding. They can run fast, but you know where the road leads. They can shout loud, but you've learned when to be still. And the world needs that balance. It needs your calm, your patience, your perspective. God doesn't keep you here because He forgot to call you home. He keeps you here because He wants to use you as a steady light in a generation that's lost its direction. When you were young, you prayed for success. Now, in this season, God invites you to pray for significance. Success is about what you can gather. Significance is about what you can give. Success fades when the body weakens, but significance grows as the soul matures. And every single day you're alive, God is saying, there's still more for you to give. More love, more kindness, more wisdom, more forgiveness. Maybe you look at your hands and think they've done all they can. But those same hands can still lift others up in prayer. They can still comfort. They can still bless. You may not stand on a platform, but your table can become your pulpit. Your home can become a place where others find peace. Every word that leaves your mouth now carries the authority of someone who has lived what they believe. And that's what gives your purpose its power. Don't believe the lie that retirement means retreat. In God's kingdom, there's no retirement from purpose, only redirection. You may have retired from your job, but you haven't retired from your calling. God still wants you to mentor, to encourage, to pray, to testify. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs people who have seen the valley and can still talk about the mountain, and that's you. Some of the most powerful things you can do in this season have nothing to do with doing. They have to do with being. Being a presence of peace in a world of panic. Being a voice of calm when others are afraid. Being a reminder that faith is not a fairy tale. It's a fire that burns stronger with time. The world may chase youth, but heaven treasures maturity, because when you've walked with God for 60 years, your words carry the fragrance of faith that has stood the test of time. Think of Moses. He wasn't called to lead until he was 80. Think of Abraham. His greatest promise came when the world said it was too late. Think of Anna, the prophetess. She waited in the temple for decades, and God let her see the Savior before she died. You see, heaven does not measure by human calendars. When others think you've reached the end, God may be turning the page to your most meaningful chapter. You're in a season of purpose not because you're still strong, but because you're still needed. Someone needs your story. Someone needs your example. Someone needs to see what faithfulness looks like after disappointment, what joy looks like after loss, what grace looks like when life hasn't been easy. Every scar you carry has a story to tell, and every story you tell has the power to heal. God doesn't count your years. He measures your usefulness. That means as long as you're breathing, He still has something for you to do. Maybe it's to reconcile with someone before you leave this world. Maybe it's to plant faith in a grandchild's heart. Maybe it's to remind someone that even after heartbreak, hope still lives. Whatever it is, you're still here because you are still part of heaven's plan. And when you understand that, every day becomes holy. Every morning becomes a mission. You stop asking, how long do I have left? Start asking, Lord, how can I serve with what I have now? That's the heart of this season. surrendering your time to eternal purpose. So, if you've crossed 60 and wondered why you're still here, remember this: you are not living in your leftover years. You're living in your appointed years. God has preserved you not just to survive, but to pour out the wisdom of a lifetime. This is your season of purpose, a sacred time when every breath carries meaning, every word carries legacy, and every act of love carries the touch of eternity. When we are young, we think strength is everything. We believe power comes from speed, from energy, from the ability to do more, achieve more, and go further than anyone else. We measure our worth in how much we can carry, how much we can conquer, and how loudly we can speak. But as the years pass, God begins to teach us a sacred truth: that strength fades, but wisdom endures. That the hands which once built can now bless, and the voice that once shouted can now whisper with more authority than ever before. There comes a time in life when God shifts the way He uses you. In your youth, He uses your energy. In your middle years, He uses your endurance. But after 60, He begins to use your experience. The fire that once burned in your muscles now burns in your mind. The fight that once drove you forward now deepens your understanding. You no longer need to prove yourself, because your life itself has become proof of His grace. Wisdom is not born from success, it's born from scars. It's the result of walking through storms that didn't destroy you and valleys that didn't swallow you. It's the quiet knowledge that comes from failure, forgiveness, and faith. You've seen what happens when people try to build life on pride and ambition, and you've learned the power of humility. You've seen the emptiness of chasing the world's applause, and you've learned the peace of walking with God's approval. That is the wisdom only time can teach. And that is why God keeps you alive after 60, because the world still needs what you've learned. When strength ruled your youth, you were the one doing the work. You were the builder, the provider, the one others look to for direction. But now your role has changed. Now you are not just doing, you are teaching. You are not just building, you are guiding the builders. You may not carry the same weight you once did, but your words now carry the weight of experience, and that is far more powerful. Think of the oak tree. When it was young, it reached upward, fighting for sunlight, growing fast and wild. But as it aged, its growth slowed, yet its roots went deeper. Its trunk became stronger, its shade spread wider, its purpose changed from growing tall to giving shelter. That is the beauty of wisdom. It doesn't strive to be seen, it seeks to sustain. You see, strength impresses people, but wisdom influences them. Strength fades with time, but wisdom grows with every season. The young might win the races, but the old know which races are worth running. And that's what the world needs. Not more energy, but more discernment. Not more ambition, but more direction. You have something the world's rush can't produce: perspective. You've lived long enough to see that not everything urgent is important, and not everything important is loud. You've learned that some battles are better left to God. You've learned that sometimes silence speaks louder than arguments. You've learned that true strength is not in winning every fight, but in choosing the right ones. That's wisdom, and that is why your presence still matters. God uses your calm to guide others through chaos. He uses your patience to teach others how to wait. He uses your story to remind a restless world that peace is possible, even in the storm. The young may see you and think your best days are behind you, but heaven sees you and says your most useful days are right now. Because strength may build kingdoms, but wisdom sustains them. Strength may make progress, but wisdom prevents destruction. You are the living memory of what happens when God is trusted over time. And that is something no youth, no technology, no innovation can replace. There are people watching you, children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors, and they are learning from you even when you don't speak. They see how you handle loss, how you forgive, how you pray, how you endure. And without realizing it, your wisdom is shaping their faith. They are learning what it means to trust God, not because of what you tell them, but because of how you live before them. Maybe you no longer lead armies or run businesses or stand in crowds, but every prayer you whisper is an act of leadership in the kingdom of God. Every word of encouragement is a seed planted in someone's heart. Every moment of patience is a lesson for someone who's still learning to wait. The influence of wisdom doesn't shout. It seeps quietly into souls and changes them forever. You are not forgotten, my friend. You are not finished. You are refined. You have been through too much, seen too much, endured too much for it all to be meaningless. God does not waste pain, and He does not waste time. Every loss you've survived has become a lesson. Every tear you've cried has become a teaching. Every trial you've overcome has become a truth someone else desperately needs to hear. The world around you glorifies youth. It celebrates beauty, strength, speed. But heaven celebrates endurance, faith, and understanding. The young may carry the torch for a while, but you, after 60, are the flame that lights it. Without your wisdom, their fire burns wild. With your guidance, it burns steady. So don't say, my time is over. Say instead, my purpose has matured. You've graduated from strength to significance. God doesn't need your body to be strong when your heart is already wise. The same hands that once worked now bless. The same feet that once ran now stand firm. The same voice that once spoke quickly now speaks carefully. And every word has weight because it has been tested by time. Wisdom over strength. There comes a moment in life when you realize that your story is not just your own, the years you've lived, the tears you've shed, the prayers you've whispered in the dark. They were never meant to stay within you. They were meant to become a light for those still finding their way. After 60, you don't just carry memories, you carry a legacy. You become a living testimony of what God can do with a faithful heart. That is why you are still here, because someone needs to see your light before they can find their own. Every wrinkle on your face is not a mark of age, but a chapter of endurance. Every scar is proof that you survived what others thought would destroy you. You've lived through seasons of laughter and sorrow, of gain and loss, of faith and doubt. And yet through it all, you've discovered one unshakable truth. God has never failed you. He may not have answered every prayer the way you want it, but He has carried you through every storm you faced. That story, that testimony, is the legacy you now carry into the world. You see, legacy isn't built by fame or fortune, it's built by faithfulness. The world may forget your name, but heaven will never forget your obedience. You are not still alive to relive your past. You are alive to pass down the light you've been given. That light, the light of faith, of grace, of hope, is what the next generation desperately needs. In a world full of noise, your calm speaks volumes. In a time of confusion, your conviction becomes a compass. You are living proof that God's promises don't expire with time. There's a reason the Bible calls the older generation a crown of glory. Because crowns are not given for speed. They're given for endurance. You've walked with God long enough to see that every detour had a purpose. You've watched Him turn pain into peace, loss into wisdom, and waiting into worship. And now, without even trying, you've become a testimony to those around you. People watch the way you live, the way you forgive, the way you smile even after heartbreak. And they see a light the world can't manufacture. Think about it. Your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they may not always listen to sermons, but they are reading your life. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every moment of patience, it's a message that says God is still good. You may not stand behind a pulpit, but your kitchen table can become your platform. Your stories, your prayers, your hugs, they preach louder than many words. That's legacy. That's the light you carry. You didn't endure everything you've been through for yourself. God preserved you so others could see what endurance looks like. When younger hearts grow weary, they need to look at someone like you and realize that faith is not a sprint. It's a lifetime walk. They need to see that no matter how dark life gets, light still wins. And you are that light because you've seen darkness and refused to let it consume you. Your legacy isn't about what you've achieved, it's about what you've overcome. It's about the times you wanted to give up but didn't. It's about the moments when faith was the only thing you had left, and it was enough. The world is full of people chasing temporary glory, but your story shines with eternal value. You've shown that real strength is quiet, that real peace is not the absence of pain, but the presence of God in it. Even now, your life continues to preach. Maybe you think no one notices you anymore, that the world has moved on, that your best days are behind you. But there's a grandchild watching how you pray before every meal. There's a neighbor who sees how you still help others, even when your own body aches. There's a friend who draws courage from your smile. You may not realize it, but your very presence carries light into every room you enter. And that's the miracle of legacy. It doesn't end when your energy fades. Your influence outlives you. Long after you're gone, your words will echo in someone's heart. Your prayers will continue to bear fruit, and your example will guide someone through their own storm. The seeds of faith you plant today will grow in the hearts of people you may never meet. That's how God works. He turns a single life into a lamp that shines for generations. When God keeps you alive after 60, it's often not for your sake alone. It's for the sake of those watching you. He keeps you here to model what it means to finish well, to show that faith doesn't fade with time, that hope doesn't weaken with age, and that love only grows deeper. You're not here by accident. You're here as evidence that God's grace sustains to the very end. So don't hide your story. Don't dim your light because you think it's small. The same God who kept you alive through every trial wants to shine through you now more than ever. Speak of His goodness. Share your journey. Let others see how faith has shaped your life. The world has enough noise. What it needs is the quiet, unwavering testimony of someone who has truly walked with God. When your heart beats slower and your steps grow softer, remember this: your legacy has just begun. The light you carry now is not the fire of youth. It's the glow of wisdom, the warmth of grace, the flame that never goes out. It's the light that says, I have seen God's faithfulness and it is real. So keep shining, my friend. Keep living as a testimony. You are the proof that God keeps His promises. And as long as you're alive, your legacy of light will continue to guide others toward the one who gave it to you in the first place. There is something deeply sacred about reaching a point in life when you realize that every heartbeat is a gift. After 60 years, you begin to understand that life isn't just about what you've done. It's about what remains for you to do. And maybe, just maybe, God has kept you here for one final assignment. Not to make your name known, but to make His love known. Not to build something for yourself, but to prepare hearts for eternity. You see, when you were young, life seemed endless. You chased dreams, built plans, made mistakes, and kept going. The road stretched far ahead, and you didn't think much about its end. But now, you've lived enough years to understand how precious each day truly is. You've attended funerals of friends, said goodbye to loved ones, and felt the reality of time pressing gently on your soul. You've learned that tomorrow is not guaranteed, and that realization changes everything. It makes you ask, why am I still here? And the answer, my friend, is simple yet profound. Because God still has work for you to do. You're alive not because He forgot you, but because He still trusts you. There is still a word that only you can speak, a person only you can reach, a heart only you can touch. You may think your time has passed, but in God's eyes, your greatest purpose might still be waiting just around the corner. The final assignment is never about doing more. It's about meaning more. It's about walking with deeper gratitude, loving with greater gentleness, forgiving with freer grace. Maybe your assignment now is not to travel the world, but to reach across the table. Maybe it's not to start something new, but to finish something left undone, to mend a broken relationship, to say the words you never said, to remind someone that love still lives. God often keeps people alive longer than they expected, not as a delay, but as a divine opportunity. Think of the people you know who left this world early. Their time was complete. But yours continues because your mission isn't over. Perhaps there's still a child who needs your blessing, a friend who needs your faith, or a stranger who needs your kindness. Maybe there's still a prayer you need to pray that will unlock healing for someone else. God's purpose never wastes time. It redeems it. Every day you wake up, heaven is saying, there's still something I want to do through you. It may not be loud or public. Your assignment may not come with applause or recognition. But sometimes the quietest tasks hold the greatest eternal weight. A conversation that softens a hardened heart. A note of encouragement to someone who's about to give up. A simple, I forgive you, that sets a soul free. These are the holy works that echo beyond time. Maybe your final assignment is to show the world what it looks like to finish well. Anyone can start strong, but few end with faith still burning. Maybe God kept you here to show that even in old age, joy still lives, that even in weakness, worship still rises, that even when the world changes, His truth stands firm. You're not just surviving your final years. You're modeling what it means to trust God all the way to the end. There's a special kind of authority that comes with time. The wisdom you've gained gives weight to your words. People may not always say it, but they're listening. Your grandchildren notice the way you pray. Your friends feel the peace you carry. Even those who've lost their way can sense something steady in you, something unshakable. That's the presence of a person walking in their final assignment to reflect God's faithfulness, not in theory, but in living proof. And perhaps your assignment is not only to speak, but to prepare your heart for heaven, and to help others prepare theirs. To leave behind not just possessions, but peace. To make sure that when you leave this world, you've poured out every ounce of love you have. To leave no apology unspoken, no blessing withheld, no kindness undone. After all, life is not measured by how long we live, but by what we leave behind. And what you leave behind will be more than your name. It will be your example. People will remember how you faced hardship with grace, how you forgave those who hurt you, how you prayed even when it hurt to hope. They will remember the peace that surrounded you because it came from somewhere greater than yourself. That peace is your legacy, and that legacy is your final gift to this world. God's final assignments are often quiet but never small. He might call you to simply listen to someone who feels forgotten, to pray for someone who has no one else praying for them, to share your story one more time so that someone else can believe that hope is still real. These are not small things. They are eternal things. They are the threads God weaves into His great tapestry of redemption. And when the day comes that He finally calls you home, you'll be able to look back and say, I did what I was kept here to do. You'll know that your extra years were not wasted. They were invested. You'll realize that God didn't just extend your time. He expanded your impact. So if you're still here, breathe deeply and lift your eyes to heaven. Ask Him, Lord, what would you have me do today? Because your assignment may not be finished, but every day you live is a chance to fulfill it. You may not know the full plan, but you can still take the next step. Smile at someone who needs warmth. Speak hope into a weary heart. Pray for someone who's given up. These small acts of love may be the very reason you're still alive. This is what it means to live with divine purpose at the edge of eternity. To use every breath as a blessing, every word as a witness, every moment as a mission. You are not waiting to die. You are living to complete what heaven began in you long ago. That is why God keeps you alive after 60, because your story is not finished and your final assignment is still unfolding, one act of love at a time.